Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Today, we're going to revisit the Dennis Martin disappearance. Join me. Let's take a walk and see. Now, in the annals of American true crime, there are certain cases that transcend the boundaries of a simple missing person report, evolving into modern day legends, cautionary tales whispered around campfires, and enduring mysteries that haunt the collective consciousness. The disappearance of 6-year-old Dennis Martin from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in 1969 is one such case. I remember it well. I was living in Knoxville at the time. I was just a few months younger than Dennis. It's a story that combines the innocence of childhood, the primal fear of the wilderness, and the agonizing pain of a family left without answers. Now, for over half a century, the fate of the quiet boy from Knoxville has been the subject of speculation, investigation, and heartbreak. The recent release of long-held case files from the National Park Service and the FBI has cast a new light on this cold case, revealing the intricate details of the largest search operation in the park's history and the baffling lack of evidence that has left a void of uncertainty for 56 years. This is not just the story of a lost child. It's a story about the limits of human endurance, the complexities of a massive search effort, and the enduring power of a mystery that refuses to be solved. The weekend of Father's Day, 1969, was meant to be a joyous occasion for the Martin family. Dennis, along with his father, grandfather, and 9-year-old brother, had embarked on a camping trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a place of breathtaking beauty and untamed wilderness. On the afternoon of June 14, just a few days before his 7th birthday, Dennis and his brother were playing with other children near Spence Field, a highland meadow on the Appalachian Trail. The children, in a moment of playful exuberance, decided to play a prank on the adults. The plan was simple. The boys would split up, hide behind the bushes, and then jump out to surprise their parents. Dennis, the youngest of the group, went one way, while the other boys went another. It was a game of hide-and-seek that would have a devastatingly permanent conclusion. Dennis Martin was never seen again. The initial moments after Dennis's disappearance were filled with a slowly creeping dread. According to the timeline detailed in the recently released National Park Service case file, his father became concerned within 3 to 5 minutes of the boys parting ways. He began calling out for his son, his voice echoing through the dense foliage. When there was no response, he started a frantic search along the Appalachian Trail, his heart pounding with a growing sense of panic. He returned to the main group, hoping that Dennis had simply circled back, but his hopes were dashed. The search continued, growing more desperate with each passing moment. As dusk began to settle over the mountains, the sense of urgency turned into a full-blown emergency. At approximately 8:30 p.m., Dennis's grandfather made his way to Cades Cove and notified the park rangers that his grandson was missing. The official search for Dennis Martin had begun. The first night of the search was hampered by the unforgiving forces of nature. A torrential downpour, a common occurrence in the Smokies, unleashed its fury on the search area. An estimated 2.5 inches of rain fell that night, turning the mountain streams into raging torrents and washing away any potential tracks that Dennis might have left behind. The rain, coupled with the darkness and the rugged terrain, made the initial search efforts incredibly challenging. Rangers and family members alike scoured the immediate vicinity of Spence Field throughout the night, their flashlights cutting through the inky blackness, their calls for Dennis swallowed by the storm. The chief ranger, realizing the gravity of the situation, began to formulate a comprehensive search plan for the following morning. As the sun rose on June 15, the full scale of the search and rescue operation began to unfold. This would become the largest and most extensive search in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Experienced National Park Service personnel and a growing army of volunteers fanned out across the mountainside, Their mission, singular and urgent: to find Dennis Martin. The initial search focused on the most logical areas: the west prong of the Little River, Anthony Creek, and the drainages of Little Bald and Spence Field. The hope was that Dennis had simply wandered downhill, as lost children often do, and would be found near a water source. Over the next 2 weeks, the search effort grew to an unprecedented scale. An estimated 1,800 to 2,000 searchers combed the rugged terrain, a testament to the outpouring of community support and the determination of the authorities. The search area expanded to cover more than 56 square miles, with 12.5 square miles being subjected to an intensive grid-by-grid search. The searchers, a mix of park rangers, law enforcement officers, military personnel, and civilian volunteers, faced a formidable challenge. The terrain was steep and treacherous, the undergrowth was thick and unforgiving, and the weather remained unpredictable. The emotional and physical toll on the searchers was immense, but still they pressed on, driven by hope of finding the missing boy. Despite the Herculean efforts of the search teams, though, the results were disheartening. As the days turned into weeks, not a single trace of Dennis Martin was found. No clothing, no footprints, no sign of a struggle, no evidence of his passing. It was as if the mountain had simply swallowed him whole. The lack of any clues was baffling to the experienced searchers and investigators. The chief ranger, in a report filed on June 20, began to outline contingency plans for what they would do if Dennis was found, either alive or deceased, a grim acknowledgement of the fading hope. By June 22, the logical search area had been thoroughly covered, and the narrative in the case file took on a somber tone. Quote, "The logical search area had been reached. Nothing at all had been found." End quote. The use of search dogs, a standard practice in modern-day search and rescue operations, was a point of contention in the aftermath of the Dennis Martin case. While dogs were eventually brought in, park officials later acknowledged that they should have been deployed earlier. The initial rainstorm would have washed away any existing scent trail, but if Dennis had continued to move after the rain, he would have created a new one. The delayed use of the dogs was seen by some as a missed opportunity, a crucial error in the early stages of the search. As the official search began to scale back, the mystery of Dennis Martin's disappearance deepened. On June 21, the number of searchers had peaked at around 1,400. The next day, it dropped to a mere 1,000, and by Monday, it had dwindled to only 400. The Park Service, however, did not give up entirely. The chief ranger stated that they were prepared to continue the search for up to 90 days with a small team of their best men, who could also coordinate any volunteer efforts. The superintendent of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, in a letter written a few days later, shared his personal opinion that if Dennis were ever to be found, it would be within a few miles of the shelter near where he disappeared. This suggests that the prevailing theory among the park officials was that little Dennis had succumbed to the elements in the immediate vicinity of where he was last seen. In the absence of any physical evidence, speculation and theories began to fill the void. The most logical and widely accepted theory was that Dennis, a small child in a vast wilderness, had simply gotten lost, become disoriented, and perished from the exposure to cold and rain. The storm on the first night would have made survival for a 6-year-old nearly impossible. His body, in this scenario, would have been concealed by the dense undergrowth or perhaps washed away by the swollen streams, never to be found. However, the complete lack of any evidence led to the emergence of other, more sinister theories. The possibility of a kidnapping, though initially dismissed by the authorities, has persisted over the years. Could someone have abducted Dennis from the trail, leaving no trace behind? The FBI, which became involved in the case due to the possibility of a kidnapping, maintained a case file on Dennis Martin for decades. This file, which was recently released to the public after numerous Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests by investigator and author Michael Bouchard, provides new insights into the investigative process. The 133-page document reveals the FBI's involvement and the lines of inquiry they pursued. Now, while the file does not provide a definitive answer to the mystery, it does show that the kidnapping theory was taken seriously by the authorities. Local news channel WBIR out of Knoxville, talking about the case, alludes to a fate far worse, their words, a chilling phrase that opens the door to even more disturbing possibilities. Could Dennis have been the victim of a predator, either human or animal or something else? While bear attacks are a possibility in the Smokies, they are rare and usually leave behind forensic evidence. The idea of a human predator is a more terrifying and perhaps more plausible explanation for the complete lack of any clues. A person who abducts a child from a national park would likely take great care to cover their tracks, leaving behind a clean scene, which is exactly what the searchers found. The release of the National Park Service and FBI case files has reignited public interest in the Dennis Martin case. For decades, the information contained in these files was hidden from public view, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. The relentless efforts of author Michael Bouchard to obtain these documents have provided a new level of transparency and have allowed the public to see the case through the eyes of the original investigators. While the files may not contain a smoking gun per se that solves the case, they do provide a wealth of information about the search, the investigation, and the thinking of the authorities at the time. They are a valuable historical record of one of the most baffling missing person cases in American history. The legacy of the Dennis Martin case is a complex and multifaceted one. On a practical level, it may have influenced changes in search and rescue protocols in the National Park Service, the sheer scale of the operation, the challenges faced by the searchers, and the ultimate failure to find any trace of the boy likely led to a reevaluation of how such searches are conducted. The case serves as a stark reminder of the importance of rapid deployment of resources, the effective use of search dogs, and the need for a coordinated and systematic approach to wilderness search and rescue. On a more emotional level, for many people, myself included, the Dennis Martin case is a story that continues to resonate with people because of its raw human element. I followed the case from day one, living in the same town as Dennis. It is the story of a family's worst nightmare come true, a story of hope turning quickly to despair, and a story of a community coming together in a time of crisis. The image of a 6-year-old boy, lost and alone in the vastness of the mountains, is a powerful and enduring image. It taps into our deepest primal fears and our most basic human instinct to protect our children. And for the Martin family, the past 56 years have been a journey of unimaginable pain and unanswered questions. They've had to live with the void of not knowing what happened to their son, a void that can never be filled. Dennis's father passed away without any answers. This case had been a constant presence in his and the other family members' lives, a wound that never fully healed. The release of the case files may provide some measure of closure to the remaining family, a sense of knowing that everything that could have been done was done, but it cannot bring back Dennis. In closing, the disappearance of Dennis Martin is a case that is tragic as it is mysterious. It's a story that's been etched into the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a constant reminder of the power of nature and the fragility of human life. The massive search effort, the lack of any evidence, and the enduring mystery of his fate have combined to create a legend that will likely be told for generations to come. Dennis Martin, who would be 62 years old today, remains forever a 6-year-old boy in the public imagination, a symbol of innocence lost, and a mystery that continues to haunt the misty peaks of the Smokies. The files are now open, but the case remains cold. And the question of what happened to little Dennis Martin on that fateful Father's Day weekend in 1969 is likely to remain unanswered a secret held captive by the silent, ancient mountains. Well, friends, there you have it. I look forward to your comments on this case, but please keep it friendly and respectful. I'm Steve Stockton. Until we meet again, stay safe out there. Be good to yourselves and one another. As for me, I'll see you a little further on down the trail. Please, tell your animals I said hi.